All right, welcome everybody. Thanks for joining me. Hopefully everybody had a good spring break, even though it was very snowy. And then today ended up being snowy too. I can't believe it. Just so everybody's aware, this lesson is being recorded for learning purposes. I did throw the Nearpod link in the chat. If you can join us there, that'd be awesome. If you can't, just love you to chat through the room chat and stuff like that. Communicate with me a little bit. That'd be great. Just classroom expectations real quick. Make sure we're following along with the Nearpod lesson. Use the chat tools respectfully and appropriately, and then also respond to questions and instructions the first time. Okay, so today what we're going to be doing is we're going to be talking about civil versus criminal law. And there's a distinction between the two, and there's some ways that it kind of connects as well, right? Like you can actually have an injunction or a case against somebody both civilly and criminally, and it's good. I don't know, it's just good that there's different sides of the court, right? This class is more about the criminal side, but I think you got to also be aware of the civil side as well. Before I jump into there, let's just go over the course format real quick. Remember, recordings I just post right here to the course recordings or the announcement page right here. Course plan right here. We have class every Wednesday, 2:15. If you can't make it, see the announcement page for the thing or in the courses. Hit it up right here. We got a week to do the assignments, quiz 2 and 3. Next, let's see here. We got a couple things. This week, the week of May 1st, if you are a senior, if you are an SOEP part-time student, if you are going to be graduating early, you need to really get your stuff done by this week. For the rest of you, I got a good 2 weeks built in here just to catch up if you need to. Okay. So that's kind of where we're at. Today, what we're going to do, we're going to go over civil versus criminal law. We also have inside the courts next week. And then the week after that is law as a career. Okay. So we have actually 2 assignments this week. One, a mid-course reflection. And then the lesson 3 quiz, which we'll be going over these 10 questions at the end of class. So if you stick around for that, it will be all good. Okay. All right. Any questions before we get rolling? Yeah, this is just about learning, guys. It needs to be relaxed. Classes should be relaxed. We need to just learn stuff, right? Enjoy what we're doing. Yeah, what's your question? Okay, why is bringing up that question? Oh, why are the Montana police so crappy at their job? I can't really answer that. I don't know about the Montana police. I don't know. It's your opinion too, so I don't know. Maybe there's some really good ones out there. I have no idea. That's how you lost respect for police. Well, that's not good. I mean, that's not the perception that law enforcement community wants to put out. They want to put it out that, hey, we're to be helpful and that kind of stuff. But there are some bad apples, like in any profession. So. Oh yeah. So this course, these courses are good to kind of give you a basic insight for somebody that wants to be a police officer or in law enforcement or law or anything like that. So, oh, I'm sorry. Doesn't sound good, Rixie. Okay. All right, real quick. Okay, so what we're going to be doing is we're going to be answer multiple choice questions about civil and criminal court cases. All righty. Okay, so civil and criminal cases. Let's just kind of read about this and we're going to talk about that. Okay. The U.S. criminal justice system has a very clear rules that citizens need to follow. When there are disputes about these laws or individual violates these rules, they may find themselves involved in a criminal or civil case. What happens during the civil and criminal cases in this unit? We'll learn what that's all involved about, okay, and what different kind of processes there are in each. Okay, we're going to watch a quick video that kind of shows the difference between the two.
Let's have a closer look at the differences between civil law and criminal law. In civil cases, the plaintiff, the party that brings the lawsuit or action, is a private party, such as an individual or a business. In criminal law, the plaintiff, also called the complainant in this context, is the government or the state, which acts as the prosecution. In both civil and criminal cases, the defendant is a private party. Again, either an individual or an organization. In order for a plaintiff to prevail in a civil lawsuit, there has to be a preponderance of evidence that supports the case and its alleged facts. The burden of proof is more stringent in criminal law. In criminal law, the test of evidence required is beyond a reasonable doubt. This makes it more difficult to secure a conviction, which, however, makes sense given that criminal sanctions can be more drastic than civil sanctions. In civil cases, the sanctions or remedies typically consist of either damages, injunctions, equitable remedies such as specific performance, or even a combination thereof. In criminal law, some of the main sanctions include incarceration or prison, fines and penalties, or even execution. Finally, civil and criminal law differ in certain respects when it comes to the underlying societal goals or public policies. Civil law is about compensation, first and foremost, but also about deterrence of future misconduct, and, to some extent, punishment. Punishment is normally not an important element of civil law, with the exception, however, of punitive damages in tort cases. Criminal law is normally not about compensation. Here, the strong emphasis lies on specific and general deterrence, that is, preventing the defendant as well as others from offending again. Additionally, criminal law has a strong punitive element. In the same vein, criminal law is said to have certain signaling and expressive functions. Society uses criminal law to convey social meanings and norms, making it clear that certain types of behavior are regarded as particularly reprehensible.
All right. So I know that was kind of boring, but that kind of gave you a little bit of breakdown of the difference between the two, right? So a civil court case is like individuals or companies against each other, or a company and an individual, something like that. Always the person prosecuting the criminal trial is the government. Okay. And so it kind of lends itself down to that. In a criminal case, fines aren't usually paid or compensation. It is more in the regards to if they're found beyond a reasonable doubt. You heard that they would be doing like prison fines, that kind of stuff. Okay. In the other hand, civil court is where compensation's given, all that kind of stuff. So let's take a look at an example of a famous civil case. Okay. This is very interesting. Okay. One of the most famous and controversial civil cases in the last few decades was the Blk versus McDonald's restaurant, which involved McDonald's coffee. In 1994, an elderly woman purchased a cup of coffee from the McDonald's drive-thru, but it spilled in her lap. The coffee caused third-degree burns. The woman claimed McDonald's was at fault for serving her hot coffee. So she sued McDonald's, claiming the coffee was hotter through the drive-thru than it was purchased inside the restaurant, and that this hotter temperature caused the wounds she suffered. A judge initially awarded the woman nearly $3 million, but the amount was reduced on appeal. Okay. All right, I want to know your guys' thoughts. Okay. Yeah. So it wasn't, it was less than that, but it was quite a bit. Okay. So what are you guys' thoughts? I see people putting in the chat here, $3 million. Wow. That's her fault for spilling it. Yeah. So, I mean, what are your guys' thoughts? Anybody want to put that in the near pod? Those that are in the near pod. If you want to jump on the near pod, just put that in the chat too. So, 3rd-degree burns, her fault. I disagree and think that they should have known better. That coffee is that hot. Okay. Yeah, she did make some money out of that. That's for sure. Okay. Sometimes civil cases such as these, the judges go to send a message. Okay. And the message is to McDonald's, you need to make sure you're taking care of your consumers. So for example, now they have the coffee, this is hot, right? Or whatever written on their mugs or whatever, right? She should sue for wasting some good coffee. Yeah, so if it's 3rd-degree burns, I mean, it's pretty hard. It's pretty hot, right? So I don't know. It's interesting. A lot of people don't, I don't know. It's a very controversial case, right? But this would be known as a civil thing, and there was a settlement at the end made. Okay. She's gonna get mad for coffee being hot. Yeah. Well, I know sometimes I get hot chocolate or whatever, and it's so hot that it burns my tongue. That doesn't feel very good, right? So, yep. All right. Well, anyways, that's what a civil case is. And you can see the controversy behind it, okay? So this is the process of a civil case. Civil cases are those that involve disputes between individuals. They usually involve money, business, real estate, and other personal properties or personal injury. They also encompass family law, such as divorce courts, custody hearings, and estate cases. For example, you might bring a civil case against an individual who injured you in a car accident. This is how things happen, okay? So the timeline, you'll have your initial pleading, so it's the complaint or summons. Then you will have a pre-trial practice, discovery, deposition. So it's where everybody kind of gets together. And then you have a civil trial. The bench trials could happen, a jury trial, and they talk about damages. And then there would be a post-trial, a verdict that's given. Okay. So no wonder McDonald's treats people and gives you cold food. Okay. Well, at least it's cold and not, 3rd-degree burn. All right. Okay. Let's do an example real quick of a criminal case. Okay. So here's one. Bobby's uncle was arrested for fraud, tax evasion, conspiracy to commit fraud, and mail fraud. Bobby's aunt was also arrested for conspiracy to commit fraud and for being an accessory. Bobby was confused by everything that had happened to his family, and he wanted to find out just what was going on. He decided to do some research about what had happened to his aunt and uncle. Crime in the United States is high compared to other nations. The rate of robberies is twice as high as it is in Canada or France. The rate of homicide in the United States is nearly 7 times the amount in other nations. And American people are now more than ever aware of this. We see crime as on the news every day, and many of our lives have been affected by crime in some way, whether it is increased use of surveillance cameras or having something stolen from us. But how do we as a society control crime? Okay, the United States has a complex criminal law system that serves to prevent crime and protect the people. Okay, so as we kind of talked about before, in our corrections facility, we basically have more people in our per population than any other country in the world, right? And so we've kind of talked about that before, that, how do we kind of balance this, right? But we do have some classifications of crimes, okay? So let's talk about these real quick. So another purpose of the U.S. criminal justice system is to classify the type and severity of a criminal offense. Crimes have been classified by the type of offenses, such as crime against a persons or crimes against property, or by the amount and punishment each offense is worth. Crimes are divided into felonies, misdemeanors, and violations, okay? So the worst that you can get is what's called a felony, okay? Felonies are crimes that are more serious in nature and punishable by a year or more in prison. An example of a felony crime is murder. And we've kind of gone over these a little bit before. Misdemeanor crimes are those that are not as severe as felonies, and the punishment is usually less than a year in jail or a monetary fine. An example of a misdemeanor is public intoxication. Okay, violations. Yes, I've received some violations in my life. Are small infractions and usually only result in monetary fine. Most traffic crimes are examples of violations, such as speeding. Okay, I have got some speeding tickets in my life. Okay, the next one that they talk about a little bit is liability. The state is being responsible for a behavior, action, or individual of others, right? So that there's some type of liability that's involved in this stuff. There are some roles as we're going through this system and kind of looking into more detail. Says the driving teacher. Yes, I'm the driver's ed instructor, but I haven't had a ticket. I'm going to be clear on this for like probably 7 or 8 years. Okay, so back when I was a youth, I wasn't that smart. All right, well, do what you want if you want to trust me or not. Very good. All right, so some rules that we have in here. The police find the offender, they gather the evidence pertaining to the crime, and they make the arrest, and will also be witnesses during the trial. Yeah, I teach driver's ed here, the theory class online. So if that's something you want to get, you guys can talk to your counselors about getting in the class. Just a little plug for driver's ed. Okay. The next one's the defendant. The defendant is the accused of the offender, okay? He is assisted throughout the criminal proceeding by his defense attorney. So, like, let's say, like, I'm the one being accused of something. I'll have a defense attorney. I'm the defendant in the proceedings. Principals. In criminal cases, the person who are directly responsible for crime are known as the principals in the first degree. There are also those who plan and executed the offense. A second type of principal is known as a principal in the second degree. These offenders are present when the crime is committed, but do not actually participate in the crime. Okay, so we talked about the thing of his uncle, or the story of his uncle, right? His aunt was an accessory to the crime, and so an accessory before the fact is an individual who aids another in committing a crime before the crime is committed. Okay. So even if you are not like actively stealing something, but you are there, you could be a principal in a criminal case. So it kind of tells you to not take part in it. Does that take? Yeah, you don't want to take part in arson. That would not be good. So like you want to just make sure you're with good people, right? I mean, that's what it tells you, right? Okay, the next one's victims. The victims have several rights in the trial proceedings, including the right to informed of a court's proceedings, the right to attend the trial, and the right to be heard in court. Okay. The defense attorney is the one that assists the offender throughout the trial. The prosecuting attorney is the one that's employed by the government, right? The attorney general's office, county attorney general, that kind of stuff. And they argue on behalf of the victims in the trial. And then witnesses are all those who give testimony statements under oath about what they saw in the crime and what occurred, and they know that happened. Okay, roles in the court case. We got the jury. The jury is 12 impartial individuals who are given the task to decide what actually happened and whether the offender is guilty party or not. And they have some that can be like the judge can recuse some jury members because they're biased in one way or another, and they could show that they're biased. Judge, they act as moderator for all actions that occur within the trial. They ensure that the actions of both attorneys fall within the parameters of legal code, and they also outline the necessary corrections if a guilty verdict is delivered. Okay, so somebody said, hold on, we got some questions rolling here. Witnesses aren't really valued though. Most people want hard proof. Yeah, because a lot of things are hearsay, right? And we don't remember things very well. Let's be honest. So it would be, it's hard to go on the account. And now if you have multiple people giving the same account, that holds more credence than just one person, right? Someone said, my mom got a jury letter in the mail, and when they get those, they have to do. So if you get jury duty, that means you have to show up to the court, and they're going to be going through this process of saying, hey, are you biased? Are you, what I mean? They'll ask you a whole bunch of questions. And if you're selected for the jury, then you have to go through the whole criminal proceedings, and you hear all that stuff. So, oh, that's scary, kind of. Yeah, it is fairly rare. Yep, unless you're, yeah, some people get it more. It's kind of interesting. They say they randomly kind of select you. I've never been selected for jury duty. It'd be interesting, but it has to be a jury of your peers. So, for example, if somebody that's committing the crime, let's say, is only is like a high school dropout, they find basically 12 other high school dropouts to be their jury. Does that make sense? Because they need to be like on the same level, the same kind of a jury of your peers, and that's been kind of debated, right? Yeah. So I mein, if you're very highly educated, they're actually going to usually kick you off the jury. Depending on who is doing it. I've never got a ticket for a wreck. No, that wasn't my fault. Okay. Let's go over the last couple things and we'll end up. Okay. In this investigation, the arrest, the first thing that happens is an arrest is given. Warrants have to be issued by a judge in order to go in there. And when you are arrested, you'll be given what's called your Miranda rights. If we remember the Bill of Rights, Fourth Amendment says there's rights. And, you probably saw in police shows, You have the right to remain silent. You have the right to an attorney, and it just tells them their rights. And those are the Miranda rights that they talk about. In a criminal course case, the process is you'll have your initial preliminary hearing. During this hearing, the court case is heard, and they can bring forth the prosecuting attorney brings the evidence that the defendant attempted to convince the judge that there's enough evidence to actually go to that justifies a full trial or not. The next one's arraignment. After the indictment, an arraignment is held. During the arraignment, the defendant can enter a plea in which they enter a not guilty or guilty. If they're guilty, they move directly to sentencing, and they'll sentence them just right there. If they say not guilty, then they go through this thing. The next one is a plea bargaining, where the attorneys get together and say, hey, we don't want an expensive trial. We don't want this to get dragged out. Let's make a deal, right? There's probably some fault involved, that kind of stuff. And so sometimes you can just say, hey, we'll do 6 months of community service and let's get it over with, right? But sometimes they don't have that, okay? The criminal trial is a trial involves the process of each side sending their case and evidence and letting an impartial person or group of people. So it can be a judge bench, which means the judge makes all the decisions, or it could be a jury of 12. There'll be opening statements, evidence, closing arguments, instructions of the jury, and then the evidence is collected. It's proved or disproved on there, okay? And so that is the process that everything goes through, right? One person even admitted they multiple wrecks. Looks like you're talking about wrecks on there. Okay. All right, let's go over real quick just the quiz. So the first one talks about, well, let me do this first. Let me jump through here. And I'm going to open up this so you guys can go back and look at any of these slides. And we'll go through the quiz. So if you want to jump on the Nearpod, just get that a little extra thing. Because I'm not going to give you the answers here, but I give you some pretty good hints. Okay, the first one is in the case of the McDonald's and thing. We talked about, remember how she got some type of reward, right? What is that called, right? Is it a summary judgment, a settlement, deposition, or summons? Okay. So I did say what it was, right? Very good. Some people are doing good in the chat. Okay, the next one is the United States. Criminal trial by jury generally refers to 12 impartial individuals, right? We talked about that. If there's a jury, is there 12 impartial individuals? True or false? The difference between a bench and a jury trial is whether or not the judge is present. Okay. Remember, a judge would always be there. Okay, because he needs to make sure that legal things are followed. So he's always going to be there. That should give you a hint on that one. Next one. During which state of a criminal justice process is the plea entered? Okay. The plea entered. We just barely talked about, you might want to go back on the Nearpod and look at that. Okay. The next one, which criminal justice concept directly relates to evidence? Okay. On evidence, we talked about the police. They go through a thing called, and this is on the Nearpod too, of finding things, right? Finding things. Okay, that gives you a hint right there. Which of the following statements about civil suits is most accurate? Civil suits end with a trial awarding damages to the plaintiff. Most civil suits never make it to trial at all. Most civil suits end with a trial rejecting the claims of the plaintiff. Most civil suits are tied to criminal trials, providing money for the victim. Okay, so that's a very, very tricky one. Okay, so a hint that I can give you there on this one is that civil suits, right, unlike a criminal trial where they have a jury and that kind of stuff, do they actually have a trial? Okay. All right. Next one, number 7. Which exception can police offer legally to enter a home and seize evidence without a warrant? Okay. So we're looking at that to seize a home, to legally enter a home. Okay. Remember, we got to go back to the Bill of Rights, and the Bill of Rights has some certain language in it that basically says that, you can't really enter a home unless somebody gives you that, or you can see something in your view, right? So if you saw something through the window or a legal activity go on, then you can enter a home. Okay. So think about that. Next one, which group or person in a criminal case does the prosecuting attorney most directly collaborate with, since they are similar goals and they work together? Okay, so the prosecuting attorney is like the attorney general, and they're going to work with who that collects all the evidence? Who collects all the evidence and gives it to the person who wants to take down the criminal, right? Think about what this class is. Okay, next one, Tristan works at a bank. He gives the code to the vault to Isolde, who then robs the bank in the late night burglary. Which criminal best describes Tristan? Okay, he would be, and we talked about these, an accessory, right? But what type of accessory? Before the fact or after the fact? Okay. Next one. Which would be an expected punishment for a violation? Well, I hope my speeding violation, they don't put me in death. But what do you usually get for a speeding violation? Okay. That should give you a lot of hints there. Okay. So if you guys have any questions, please contact me. My contact info is right there. I'll stay after for any questions, but I'm going to stop the recording. Thanks everybody for showing up. Appreciate it.